Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I am delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur who shuttles between Spain and India, Shalini Bhattacharya. Shalini, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Shalini is the co-founder of India Hemp and Company. So, Shalini, let's talk India Hemp. But before we come to that, tell me a little bit in brief about your own background.
Sure. So, Ashutosh, I'm from Bangalore, so born and raised here. Did my schooling, my BCom here, BBM here, and started my career as a consultant. So I worked with KPMG for about 4.5 years. And the first part of my career was focused more on finding issues, right? So a lot of audits, a lot of risk assessment, a lot of helping companies scale. So getting standard operating procedures. And then I was looking something for more creative. So I moved more into the editorial side of things. I ran a magazine for about 1.5 years. I was the editor of a magazine, Lifestyle Guide here. And then I decided to do my MBA. So I switched locations. I moved to Spain about 10 years ago to do my MBA at Asari. And since then, I actually moved more into creative consulting. So the first part was more focused on what are the issues? How do you find the root cause? And the second part has been more, how do you find creative solutions that are also sustainable? That's a little bit about me. And
then you decided to team up with your sister.
Yes. So over the last 3 years, we've been running India Hemp & Co. I ran it with my sister and co-founder, Shalini Bhattacharya.
Fantastic. So let's come to India Hemp. Tell me a little bit about this venture and what was your motivation to start it?
Sure. So in 2017, actually, Ashutosh, I was in Spain and almost overnight, I developed this medical condition. So it was a back issue. It was this pain, which didn't really allow me to sleep. I started losing mobility on my right side and no one could really find the root cause of it, right? So for about 5 months, I was sent to different specialists, get different tests, but no one really could tell me what the problem was. And I was in chronic pain, right? So it had been about 5 months. They put me onto painkillers. And with painkillers, each time I'd reduce the dose a little bit, realized that it was as intense, the pain, as it was the first time I, felt it. So eventually decided to talk to family. And I think the culture that we come from as well, the family that I come from, were more open to holistic treatment.
Correct.
So we came across hemp and CBD and realized that it was available there just over the counter. So along with physiotherapy and CBD, in 5 months, I made a complete recovery and I've been living pain-free for the last 5 years. And have actually been completely, that was a really scary period because I didn't know if I could continue to work or continue to lead the lifestyle I was.
Correct.
And I think I did adopt a much more healthy lifestyle. And we started India Hemp & Co. to be able to bring hemp as well as the solution that worked for me to the rest of the world.
Fantastic. So for my viewers and listeners, let's start by asking you a very basic question. What is hemp?
Okay. So hemp is a part of the cannabis family. I'm going to just clarify a couple of things because we get these questions quite often. So cannabis sativa is the entire family group name, right? And under which you have marijuana and hemp. So they're cousin plants. So what often happens is they're confused for each other. The way we like to call it is that hemp is the sober, slightly boring, but healthier cousin. But
the cannabis is the more exciting cousin.
So a lot of people come to us initially, at least, and they were like, "Is it going to get me high?" And we're like, "No, it's healthy." And then they were a bit disappointed. So, So with hemp, it's extremely nutritious. It's been a part of our Vedas. It's been a part of our culture for over 5,000 years. It's one of the 5 sacred ingredients. It's still used in Ayurveda, right? So what had happened is, so with hemp, just to tie that back, there is a component in marijuana called THC. So you have THC and CBD. They're two components that both plants have. But industrial hemp, by regulation and by the strain that it is, contains less than 0.3% of this psychoactive property, which is called THC. So it is used for various reasons. I think it has over 25,000 documented use cases. The seeds, for example, are what we currently work with. So you have protein powders, you have seeds that you can add to your food, you can have like snacks out of it. You can use the stalk, for example, for more like fiber and products like that. Hemp has also there's some trials currently, but as an alternative source for fuel as well as plastic. Hemp can be used as hempcrete. So instead of concrete, it's a more breathable material. Of course, fabric we've always heard of. So this plant is a very, very versatile plant that's a very important part of our culture. And we're just shining the spotlight back on it because for a couple of years, because of regulations and I think, honestly, a lot of politics, that the plant has been misunderstood for a while. So we're here to clear it up.
Very interesting. And you gave me your own example of your shoulder.
Yes.
But what are some of the uses of hemp? Because you said it's almost an OTC product, and I was in Bangkok last week, and they said that CBD gummies seem to be a rage, right? So what are some of the advantages that you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
So again, this I'd like to divide into two things, right?
Yeah.
So you have the seed and you have all the extracts from the seed. And you have something called a hemp seed oil, which is an extract from the seed, which is different from CBD oil.
Right.
So I'd like to highlight the benefits of both, right?
Yeah.
So the way we like to think about is more preventive care. So a nutritional benefits as well as curative care, right? So in terms of the preventive care, there are lots of benefits. I'd like to highlight three. One is it's extremely, extremely high in protein, and it's a plant-based source, right? So for every 100 grams of hemp, I'd say you get between 35 to 37.5 grams of protein, which is unheard of as a plant-based source, right? Just to give you an idea, an egg is about 6 grams of protein. And the second is that it has a complete amino acid profile, which essentially means that it can break down the protein and help your body absorb it, right? So a lot of times we do have high protein content food, but our body can't really absorb it. I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of people have gluten allergies, or whether it comes to digesting dal, that's something that as you get older, it gets a little bit harder on your stomach.
Right.
So that's the thing. So that's the amino acid profile. And the third is it has omega-3 and omega-6.
Okay.
And together they have anti-inflammatory properties.
Wow.
That's something that helped me as well, right? So you can use it topically or you can ingest it. And a lot of today's diseases happen because of inflammation, right? So whether it's something like psoriasis, which is more visible, versus things that happen internally in terms of inflammation, gut inflammation, cancer to a certain extent. That's a little bit about the hemp seed oil.
Okay.
Now, CBD oil is usually ingested with hemp seed oil, which is why I wanted to make sure that, because the benefits still apply. With CBD oil, so we have an endocannabinoid system. So without getting too technical about it, some of the things that it does help with are chronic pain, right? So it's a natural painkiller. It's a muscle relaxant. It helps with conditions such as anxiety, depression. It helps with heart conditions. So there's a long, long list of benefits. And right now, there's research currently going on in the US, a combination of CBD and THC, which I was talking about before in the marijuana plant. I don't want to say too much right now, but there is research currently going on, but it could potentially help with cancer cell regression.
Wow.
So this plant is a very important plant for us in the future.
Absolutely. You also state that you aim to build a better, greener, more sustainable world through natural plant-based nutrients. You've just mentioned to me about the high protein content and so many other benefits. How will you talk of building a better, greener, and more sustainable world?
Okay, so to give you a bit of context, right? We are a sustainable brand. None of our packaging, I have some here. We pay a lot more potentially for the packaging that we use, but we don't use any plastic. It's all biodegradable and sustainable material. Now, we've aligned ourselves with the Sustainable Development Goals. And as citizens of the world, we're very conscious about the fact that we have about 10 years to undo a lot of the damage that has been done, right?
Correct.
Whether we're looking at it environmentally. Let me give you an example. So hemp, for example, is a carbon negative crop to grow. right? So it absorbs more carbon than it produces, even when you look at the entire supply chain. So we're looking to be able to promote a sustainable crop. It also enriches the soil. It can be grown within different crop cycles. It takes just about 4 months to grow. So that's one of the ways. The second is for people, I think this is a conversation that has been going on for a while. We do need to find alternate sources of food because it's not sustainable, right? With the CO2 emissions, etc. If we go from the animal angle, for those reasons, as well as being pet lovers and animal lovers ourselves, I think addressing the challenges. So when you say, there's no plant-based protein, or how do we get our protein plant-based? We have a solution. So promoting that in terms of a culture, in terms of a lifestyle. And we're not saying, you need to switch completely, but reduce your intake. Find different ways to add nutrition that can also be planet friendly. And we're working actively on those options.
Fascinating.
The more demand there is, the more.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. And Shalini, you mentioned, and it's factually also correct, that cannabis or hemp has been a part of the Indian culture, if I can say so, for thousands of years. What is the reason for this sudden interest that seems to have emerged in cannabis?
Short story, regulations.
Okay.
So here's what happened, right? So in 1985, the UN, a lot of this was influenced by the US as well, passed and basically classified cannabis as a Class A drug. And this essentially included hemp as well. This was all a lot of politics involved at that time. India decided not to sign that treaty, right? But what we did was take exactly that and put that in our act, which didn't fully make sense. So there's been a lot of confusion, right? So earlier it was free to grow. It grows freely till date in the Himalayas, right? But in terms of production and sourcing, so a lot of it was not possible or in the gray area. And only very recently, for example, one of the major regulations that the FSCCI, that's the food body passed, was they recognized hemp as a food source.
Okay.
Right? What that does for us is allows the entire industry to be able to reach the customer where they're at, whether it's an Amazon or a Big Basket or an Amdaris, because that validates it. So I think what that did was for about 20, 30 years caused a lot of confusion, while Ayurveda has still been using it. But in terms of just the word hemp, we said no globally, but at home we created a bit of confusion. Whereas China, for example, they didn't sign the treaty either, and they've been building their manufacturing capacities, and they were one of the biggest global producers at the moment.
Amazing. You also, from everything that you've told me, hemp is almost like a superfood.
It is.
But tell me, I take some multiple types of seeds in my daily diet.
Yes.
Should hemp seed or India hemp seed become a part of my daily diet?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we're not saying, in general, right, with nutrition, the more variety you have, the better it is. Now, like you rightly said, it is a superfood, right? So besides the three benefits I gave you earlier, it has a variety of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. So why not have something that's efficient to help with your nutrition? So it's not like you need to change completely, just add a little bit. And actually with the hemp seeds, they blend quite easily, whether it's your sabji or whether you're doing a smoothie bowl. It's just easy to blend into your daily diet without changing the taste too much, but you're just giving it a boost of nutrition. So I would highly recommend it.
And does it also make you feel good?
Well, you do get healthier. So in terms of your your nutrition, you are more, it's adding nutrition to your diet.
Fair enough.
It does.
Let's now move, Shalini, to the debate on the medical uses of cannabis.
Okay.
There has been a lot of debate, but there is, and most of us function because of the mindsets we have, right? So cannabis is associated with some kind of intoxication, if I may use that term. Tell me, what are the advantages of using cannabis and how does one prevent misuse?
So just to scale this up to maybe a global level. For example, Germany has maybe a year or two ago, it's now legal in Germany to have medical cannabis.
Mm.
And Spain has their own rules. Amsterdam has had it legal, both recreational. So the way we separate it is recreational and medicinal, right?
Mm.
So, for example, what I was having, the CBD that I was having,
Yeah.
is medicinal cannabis. The form
Mm.
I was taking it in was a pill. So it had both. It had the hemp seed oil as well as CBD.
Mm.
Now, what differentiates it? One is it's a rigorous method of study, and you need to really be able to prove its efficacy.
Mm.
That's one. And two, it treats a specific ailment. It's not just a recreational substance, right? So I think that's what separates it, and it's extremely important. Like I mentioned, with the cancer research that's happening, or whether it's with dementia, or whether it's with arthritis, there are just so many different use cases. A lot of pharma companies are very interested in getting into this space. So everyone's watching and just waiting for regulations to settle.
Okay.
So,
Very
which is
interesting.
happening, because
Okay.
another key thing that's happened globally is that, you remember the thing I told you about the UN and WHO, they've repealed it. So in 2020, December, it no longer is classified. So it's been declassified.
Wonderful.
So each country can make their own rules and regulations.
Wonderful. Let's come back to India Hemp. Yes. Tell me a little bit about your products.
Sure. So we have three ranges of products currently. We have our fastest or highest moving product is our hemp protein powder. So this is something that you can also use as flour, right? So you have people making chapatis, rotis out of it, but also making smoothies or your protein shakes out of it. We have a hemp trail mix. So this may be something that you'd be interested in, because this has 5 seeds. Okay. So it comes with, it's roasted, and it has, 5 seed. It's a 5 seed mix, so you can snack on it. So 2 tablespoons, and you're quite full of fiber, so it doesn't get you hungry too fast. We also have a hemp seed oil that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And the hemp heart. So that's the original product. So once you have the seed and you hull it, you have the hemp heart. So each of our products, we realize, have very different profiles of people.
Yeah.
People who like to cook and like to experiment in the kitchen usually go for the hemp hearts. People who are more conscious about their nutrition and maybe go to the gym a lot, or even an older population that's looking to preserve muscle, they go for our protein. And so that's one range of our nutrition products. We've recently, as of 3 weeks ago, launched a healthy snack line. So we're currently testing it. So we have things like a Bombay mixture. All these things are roasted, and it's familiar flavors, but with hemp flour. So that's one range. And we also have a pet range of products. That's something we launched last year. So the hemp seed oil, for example, with dogs, it helps them with their anxiety. So around Diwali, when dogs are very, very anxious about the crackers and sounds, it's something that vets actually have started recommending. And we have a 5-ingredient, completely natural treat for dogs.
Right.
So that's a little bit about the range. We are looking to get more into the curative side of things for the medicine that helped me. So looking to get that in India as well.
Fantastic. And there are, when I was reading about you to prepare for this interview, there are many players who have seemed to have got into this space. How are you differentiating yourself?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. One is that the timing, right, that we got into the market. So we're one of the early movers, and we entered the market just before the pandemic. So how that helped was that we had the chance and the opportunity to really connect with the community, right? So the community we have has grown with us, and I think that's something that we don't take for granted at all, because we really value having this community online. And I think that's one thing that really differentiates us. And in terms of what we bring, I think in terms of design, quality, and sustainability, those are things that we really have set the benchmark for ourselves, and I think for the industry as well. So we are we take a more creative approach, more storytelling approach, to be able to connect with that community. And I think that's something that's worked for us well so far.
Fascinating. So I have time for 2 more questions. My next question is, hemp seems to have taken the whole world by storm. How do you see this market evolving and exploding in India?
In India specifically? So I think initially, right? So a lot of the questions that we get about hemp were, okay, like I mentioned earlier, is hemp going to get me high? And we've seen the evolution and how educated people have become over the last 3 years about it. Now it's more about the nutrition and about they want to know the little details. So people in general are much more aware, and that's an excellent sign for us. Also, the media has helped a lot. There have been a lot of platforms that have shown light on hemp or given us a bit of, the spotlight. And I think just overall awareness is going to, the more aware people are of the benefits, I think there is a natural inflow in demand that's happening, but that's definitely going to skyrocket. And in terms of regulations, once there is a demand, regulations change, right? We've seen that also with the hemp seeds, with the FSCCI regulation. So the same thing is going to happen in terms of whether it's CBD or any of the hemp related products. It's going to, people will be able to grow it more freely. It can be innovated with more freely, and it'll be more accessible. And once all those three pieces of the puzzle are set, I think there's no stopping hemp. So, and globally, I think, like I mentioned, the regulations are changing, and that's another thing. It's going to be a very international market. So even when we develop products, that's a little bit of the mindset that we have.
Fascinating. And my last question to you, Shalini, and this is for the many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing learnings about hemp, your own use of hemp and getting yourself cured, and now being one of the leaders in the hemp business, what would you say are 3 lessons or learnings you want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own journey and about hemp?
Okay. I think I mentioned this earlier, community. Community is something that is key. So whether it's with your users, whether it's with the other hemp players, we are in associations, we work together, we collaborate, I think community is key.
Correct.
Right? Especially when you are setting up a category. It's because of the companies that came before us that have done so much of the work that we've been able to enter, and we hopefully are doing it, doing the same for the other companies that come in this space. So that's one. The second is that education, right? So it's something that is an ongoing exercise, and that's been an uphill challenge. So you need to get creative with it. So you need to be able to connect and use storytelling effectively to be able to deliver that message. And it could be the same message. It's essentially the same message that we've been talking about for the last 3 years, but it needs to be delivered creatively to be able to really have an impact and to be able to connect. And I'd say the third is sustainability at the forefront, right? So given the state of the world we're in, it's important for us as individuals, but also as businesses, to be responsible, to look at the bigger picture, and to be able to make decisions that impact both communities as well as the world positively. So right from small things of how you consume to what you're producing and what you're offering and how you're offering it, I think each touch point needs to be really carefully looked at to make sure that you are building a sustainable brand or lifestyle.
How fascinating. Shalini, on that note, in your 3 amazing lessons, community is the key, education is an ongoing exercise, use storytelling to communicate your message, and sustainability is at the forefront. And you have certainly converted me into ordering a hemp trail mix to test it out. I will do that right away. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your journey, about Indian hemp, about the differentiation. I had no idea that hemp had 30% protein, and I'm vegetarian. So I know therefore hemp is going to be part of my diet. And if it makes me feel good, so be it, I also have learned from you that hemp is for wellness and not just curative. I think that was a very powerful message that I got from our conversation. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to Indian Hemp and to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashutosh. And thank you for having this platform and bringing us on it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.